Ah, the 90s, the golden era of grunge, frosted tips, and bikes that didn't just roar, they sang. Let me take you back in time when motorcycles weren't trying to be all fancy pants with too much tech. They were raw, reliable, and oozed character. And in today's video, we take a brief look at 10 bikes from the 90s that had our hearts thumping with exhilaration and excitement. Number 10, starting with the Suzuki Hayabusa GSX 1300R. Powered by a 1298cc inline-4 engine, it cranked out 175 horsepower and 102 pounds-per-feet of torque. This wasn't just about top-end speed, though it did hit a blistering 190.1 miles an hour. This was about redefining what a superbike could do. The Hayabusa could launch from 0 to 60 in 2.7 seconds. To put that into perspective, even the fastest cars of the era, like the Dodge Hennessy Venom Viper, couldn't keep up. The bike's name, Hayabusa, means peregrine falcon, a bird known for diving at speeds over 200 miles an hour. And fittingly, the Hayabusa's aerodynamics were inspired by the bird of prey. Every curve and contour of the design was honed in a wind tunnel to reduce drag, making it not only fast but incredibly stable at high speeds. The styling, pure Japanese artistry, modeled after samurai armor, functional and aggressive. But the Hayabusa wasn't just a speed machine, it was a masterpiece of engineering. Its engine was so robust that you could slap a turbo on it, keep the internal stock, and push it well past 250 horsepower without breaking a sweat. That's why you still find first-gen Hayabusas with over 150,000 miles on the clock, running like they just rolled out of the factory. Suzuki didn't stop at performance, though. The Hayabusa was also surprisingly versatile. Designed as a sport tourer, it offered comfort for long rides without sacrificing agility on twisty roads. And it became a blank canvas for customization. Whether it was single-sided swing arms or air suspension or turbo kits, the Hayabusa's community took personalization to a whole new level. The Busa's reputation was so legendary that it sparked a speed war. Kawasaki tried to respond with their ZX-12R, but Suzuki's creation remained the king of the road. In fact, the Hayabusa was so fast that manufacturers eventually had to agree on an electronic speed limit to prevent governments from cracking down on high-speed bikes. Number 9, the Honda VFR 750F, a workhorse with a streak of wildness. The heart of a beast? That's right, a V4 engine. 781.7cc of liquid-cooled brilliance, putting out 110 horsepower and 60.4 pounds-per-foot of torque. That's enough punch to hit a top speed of 146 miles an hour, and let's not even get started on how smooth it felt. This wasn't about hitting some insane speeds on a straight line. It was about how well the bike carried itself no matter where you took it. Twisties? Well, it's like the bike read your mind. Long hauls? The comfort was unmatched. Honda really upped its game with its aluminum frame. It was lightweight, sturdy, and nimble. It gave the bike an edge without compromising stability. And the dual combined braking system? A lifesaver. Literally. You come flying into a corner, hit the brakes, and they bite just enough to give you confidence. Not too much, not too little. Number 8, the Yamaha YZF-R1. Featuring the world's first vertically stacked transmission, Yamaha tossed out the old playbook and decided to make something both lighter and more compact. What does that mean for you? A bike that's agile, quick, and ready to devour corners like a kid with a bag of Halloween candy. It wasn't just groundbreaking, it was jaw-dropping. Let's talk power. The R1 came armed with a 998cc inline-4 engine capable of delivering a ferocious 148.8 horsepower and 79.9 pounds-per-foot of torque. If numbers aren't your thing, let me translate. That is blisteringly fast. With a top speed of 172.2 miles an hour, this machine, it didn't just keep up with the competition, it embarrassed them. But speed, it ain't everything. The engine's smooth delivery and reliability made it a favorite for riders who wanted thrills without the headaches. And then there's the design. The R1 was as much of a work of art as it was a performance machine. Sleek, aggressive, timeless, it's one of those bikes that still turns heads decades later. Honda's CBR 900RR might have been the inspiration, but look, Yamaha took that idea and supercharged it, adding a dash of rebellion for good measure. Number 7, the Honda GL 1500C Valkyrie. Let's talk design. You've got 6 carburetors feeding a liquid-cooled flat-6 boxer engine, a setup that's not just about performance, but a feast for the eyes. It's like Honda decided to build a piece of mechanical art that just happens to tear up the road. Now, don't let the 740-pound frame fool you. The Valkyrie handles like it's got something to prove. Yeah, sure, it's a big bike, but the weight is so well distributed that it feels like a much smaller machine when you're carving through corners. And the power? Oh boy, it is there. 100 horsepower and 95.9 pounds per foot of torque to back up its imposing size. Top speed? Well, a respectable 111.8 miles an hour, which is more than enough to make your heart race. What really sets the Valkyrie apart is how well it fits into the 90s cruiser scene. Back then, the market was dominated by a certain brand known for its chrome and rumble. Honda flipped the script with this beast, offering a smooth, refined alternative that didn't skimp on muscle or attitude. The Valkyrie, it was a statement, a cruiser that was as much about performance as it was style. And let's not forget practicality. Those aftermarket hard bags are a game changer for long rides. And the 5.3-gallon fuel tank, well, that ensures that you can keep going without frequent stops. Maintenance? Sure, 6 carbs might sound intimidating, but if you treat the bike right, it'll outlast almost anything on the road. It's not just a motorcycle, it's a legacy. Number 6, the Suzuki GSX R750. Introduced in the 80s and refined in the 90s, it became the benchmark for 750cc sports bikes because it brought something truly special to the table: balance. This wasn't about brute force or fancy gimmicks, it was a precision tool for riders who wanted it all. At just under 395 pounds dry, thanks to a lightweight twin-spar perimeter frame, the Gixxer was a featherweight fighter. Pair that with its razor-sharp handling, and it became a track weapon that could carve corners like it had something to prove. Now look, the engine, an inline-four 749cc masterpiece. It churned out 128 horsepower and 60.7 pounds-per-foot of torque, which wasn't just numbers on a paper. This meant this thing could hit 165 miles an hour, leaving even some lighter bikes sweating to keep up. But it wasn't just high-revving madness. The power delivery was smooth and predictable, making it a joy to ride on the road or track. But here's the beauty of the GSX R750. It didn't break the bank. While other superbikes demanded a small fortune, this one kept things accessible. It earned its nickname Everyman Superbike because it gave riders a taste of high performance without that high price tag. And the design? Oh man, it's a classic. Iconic blue fairings, a sweet exhaust note, and an unmistakable presence that still turns heads today. It wasn't just about looking good, it was about delivering a ride that stuck with you. Number 5, the Ducati 916. Designed by Massimo Tamburini, the bike took 6 painstaking years to develop, but the result was nothing short of revolutionary. It's not just a motorcycle, it's a legend. Let's start with the aesthetics. The Ducati 916 changed motorcycle design forever, shifting from boxy styles to sleek flowing lines that redefined what sports bikes could look like. The underseat exhaust and single-sided swing arm, they weren't just for show. They were functional, race-inspired innovations that made the bike stand out both on the track and on the road. Now let's not forget this near-perfect weight distribution too, which made handling the machine an absolute dream. Now performance. The 916cc L-twin engine delivered 114 horsepower and 66.3 pounds-per-foot of torque. Those numbers may not blow modern bikes out of the water, but in the 90s, they were more than enough to dominate. And dominate it did. Carl Foggy Fogarty rode this machine to 34 Superbike World Championship wins between 94 and 98, earning Ducati 4 world titles. The 916's smooth torque curve and ability to carry speed through corners made it a track weapon. Now let's talk craftsmanship. Every inch of this bike screams precision. Even Tamburini himself tested the prototype in the rain to fine-tune its aerodynamics. The result? A bike that could cut through air like a scalpel, with style and performance perfectly balanced. But it's not all roses. The 916 is a bit of a diva. Maintenance isn't optional, and those desmodromic valves rely on rubber belts that need replacing about every 2 years, whether you ride it or not. If you neglect that, you're in for a world of hurt. But for those willing to put in the effort, the reward is a riding experience unlike any other. Number 4, the Harley-Davidson FLSTF Fat Boy. Rolling out in 1990, the Fat Boy had style, muscle, and just enough edge to make it unforgettable. First off, let's admire the design. Willie G. Davidson and Louis Netz didn't just build a bike, they crafted a masterpiece. In 1994, well, that's where things got polished. The exhaust was refined, making the bike look sharper and cleaner, a real head-turner on the streets. And those solid disc wheels, well, some call them controversial, but I call them bold. Sure, there's chatter about wind pushing the bike around, but honestly, if you're riding a Fat Boy, you're not supposed to care. Now about the engine. Nestled under the frame is a 1,338cc air-cooled V-twin powerhouse. It pumps out 67 horsepower and 71 pounds-per-foot of torque at 5,000 RPM, giving you just enough grunt to dominate those highways or back roads. It was smooth, yet powerful. The kind of engine that just works. There's no fuss, there's no drama, and then you pair that with Harley's Softail suspension, which tucks the rear shocks underneath for that clean hardtail look, and you've got comfort designed as cool. Oh, let's not forget its Hollywood claim to fame. The Fat Boy strutted its stuff in Terminator 2, carrying none other than Arnold himself. That's right, Arnold Schwarzenegger. If it's good enough for the Terminator, it's got to be good enough for you. While Arnie might be 6'3", the bike's ergonomics make it versatile enough for riders of all sizes. It's relatable, iconic, and just unapologetically Harley. Number 3, the Honda CBR 900RR Fireblade. Back in 1992, Honda flipped the script with this machine, focusing not just on raw power, but a lightweight, balanced design that refined what a sport bike could be. The brains behind this masterpiece were Tadeo Baba, the man who dared to dream up the ultimate Honda sports bike. Instead of chasing bigger dreams, Honda kept the Fireblade's heart modest, an 893cc inline-4 engine. It churned out an impressive 122 horsepower and 65 pounds per foot of torque. But here's the kicker. The bike weighed only 454 pounds. For context, that's significantly lighter than its competitors at the time, like the Kawasaki Ninja ZX-7 or Suzuki's GSX-R 750. It was less weight, meaning sharper handling, faster acceleration, and a ride that felt like slicing through air with a katana. What made the Fireblade legendary, it wasn't just the power-to-weight ratio. Honda's engineering brilliance showed in its gear-driven cams, an innovative chassis, and suspension tuning that made it both track-ready and street-friendly. It wasn't a bike that intimidated you, it was one that inspired confidence. The Fireblade's design philosophy set the tone for generations. With every update, Honda kept improving. The second generation in 1994 brought better suspension and refined styling. By 96, the engine displacement grew to 918cc, and power increased to 128 horsepower. Yet, it remained true to its roots, lightweight and reliable. Number 2, the Yamaha FZR 1000 EXUP. Introduced in 1991, it built on Yamaha's legacy with innovations that set a new standard for sports bikes. For starters, the frame. An aluminum delta box design offered unmatched stability, making it an icon in handling. Forget the wobbles of lesser bikes, this thing held its line like it was on rails. Now let's talk about the engine. The FZR 1000 housed a forward-tilted 1002cc inline-4, delivering 145 horsepower and 78.8 pounds per foot of torque. It wasn't just powerful, it was balanced. The forward tilt wasn't a gimmick, it optimized weight distribution. So whether you're cruising or attacking a corner, the bike felt planted and predictable. And thanks to the EXUP, the exhaust ultimate power valve system, the exhaust worked magic, boosting mid-range power while keeping peak performance exhilarating. A proper race pipe and road pipe hybrid, all in one. And number 1, back in the 90s, Kawasaki wasn't just building motorcycles, they were making legends. Case in point, the Kawasaki Ninja ZX-11. This wasn't just a bike, it was the bike. A straight-up speed demon that held the title of the world's fastest motorcycle for 6 glorious years. And yeah, the numbers were wild. A top speed of 176 miles an hour, powered by a 1052cc inline-4 engine, pushing 145 horsepower and 111 Nm of torque. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's start with the design. This thing had a big boxy frame with a square headlight that screamed 90s charm. It wasn't flashy, but it had a presence. That ram air intake, it was groundbreaking. The first production bike to feature one, channeling air at high speeds like a turbocharged wind tunnel. And the wind exhaust pipes at the back, that's pure muscle. On the road, the ZX-11 was a paradox. It had the soul of a sports bike, but the comfort of a tourer. The seat was plush, the riding position relaxed, and the gearbox, smooth as silk. Sure, the brakes might have had their character, let's just say you needed to plan your stops, but that only added to the thrill. This bike wasn't holding your hand, it was dragging you into the fast lane. And that engine, it wasn't just about raw power, it was the way it delivered it. Linear, unrelenting, and backed by the ram air system that made it feel like the bike had an endless supply of breath. This was before electronic rider aids, mind you. No traction control, no ABS, just you and a machine that demanded respect. The ZX-11 didn't just set records, it paved the way for the hyperbikes that we know today. It's the reason the Hayabusa exists, the reason Speed Freaks is something to dream about in the 90s. Are there any bikes, though, that we left out? Or is your favorite one of the legends that we mentioned above? Let us know in the comments section below.